Hey, what's going on? Keith here from Sports Vibes TV. And as always, I'm joined with my co host, Stephen Fox. Hey, Foxy, how's everything with you?
All is well. Shout out to you. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the SV Nation. I hope everyone is well. Can't wait to chop it up. How are you?
I'm doing as good as I can be after this tough three-game stretch. I mean, the last time we spoke, Knicks felt like they were finally getting into a little bit of a groove, and now here we go, another speed bump. And you'd be able to live with it a little bit more if you didn't see our best player out there kind of imploded or whatever the case may be. But hopefully, we can try to figure this out because we got a couple teams that are pushing us for this fifth seed. So fingers crossed we can, turn this corner, figure things out, and start to trend in the right direction, especially with the playoffs so close.
And my fingers crossed. I'm with you all the way.
Yep. I want to give a few shout outs to everybody in chat. We've got JJ. Salute. Thank you for tuning in. Jesco, my man. How's everything? Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you guys. Really do appreciate the support. Ernesto, well, we see you. Says Brooklyn can whip the Heat, but the Knicks always struggle. Yeah, the Heat definitely match up well against us. So another tough, gritty defensive team. So we do have some issues. What was it, yesterday? The Nets ran them out the park or ran them off the court.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be able to, struggle that same way against us. We've played them again next week. So fingers crossed that we'll be able to replicate some of those results.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that I saw a stat that Bridges, Cam Johnson, and who else did they get in the trade?
Bridges, Cam, and who else did they get in the trade? I can't remember who the other person was. Let me pull it up.
Yeah. They've outscored. They scored more points as Nets than Harden, KD, and Kyrie together.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. In the meantime, shout out to Shimmy MD, Pudge Nice, Ace of Spade. Hope all is well. Can't wait to touch base with you guys.
Yeah, it was just those two. Nets got Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and a bunch of firsts. And then the Suns got TJ Warren along with KD.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we'll be going up against those guys, against the Heat. They're, if I'm not mistaken, what are they, a game behind us in the standings for the fifth seed?
Yeah, it's getting scary.
Yeah, so we definitely gonna have to figure this out. They're gonna be a tough team. They have a lot they're playing for. They're motivated, and they're gonna want to come out and beat us later on this week. But Foxy, before we dive ahead and start talking about the future, it's been 3 games since we last spoke. So how do you feel about the team's performance? We had a loss against the Magic. That was a game I felt like a lot of people felt, I won't say must win, but it was definitely a game where we're going up against a team that we are more talented than, even without Brunson. They're a young team, still trying to learn how to pull out tough games, and we end up losing. You had a guy like Julius Randle, who's our best player. He starts going after Emmanuel quickly to end the half. So how did you feel about that whole ordeal?
Hey, folks, we've built a trust. We've been talking to you for several years now, and last year, I'll say we, but I didn't pull any punches that I wanted Randle out of town. And you've heard this year that it's been a resurrection. I'm really happy. Everyone, I'm all about second chances and stuff like that. So after 3 games of technical fouls, then the outburst with and given quickly the evil eye, I just hope that Randle finishes the last 7 games strong. He has a really good playoff series, or hopefully multiple series, and we trade his ass as fast as possible. I just I'm compassionate, but hey, from a GM perspective, if you put the GM hat on, how the hell are you supposed to put together a championship caliber roster when one of the key pieces is unstable? And I'm not making, I'm compassionate about mental illnesses and stuff like that. But if a dude can't take pressure, you're in the wrong market. And I just, hopefully the trade value obviously is hopefully a little better than last year. But he has a couple more outbursts, and he goes right back to last year. Even though he had this phenomenal year, he erased it with his freaking behavior. And then on top of it, Tibbs. And I keep bringing up that a great quote you said that players have to not only develop but show development, but coaches went through this shit last year with Julius, and he didn't hold him accountable. And Tibbs did it again. He should have put him right on the bench and brought in Obi, give Obi those minutes. In fact, I would have walked over and said, go to the dressing room for the rest of the game. You have to put a line in the sand and saying, we're 7 games out, man. I got to use this guy is, you and I talked off thing. We predicted it. I don't want to say anything. We kept saying, we're seeing little things where they're giving, snatching a rebound out of Ihart's hands, give him a dirty look. We've been seeing him screaming at the refs and stuff, but we saw this coming from a mile away. And, so with that, you can't be gentle here. You got to use tough love and put a line in the sand. You want to pull that shit, you're going to be on the bench. So my emotions. I love this team, and I'm just exhausted that we're getting this close. We're 7 games away from the playoffs, and we have a key player that's sabotaging the whole freaking team. And then you have Brunson's health. So I don't know what the hell to expect with us going into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's almost like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde all over from last season, because you see Randle, he has that 50-plus point performance, and you're thinking, okay, well, he might be turning the corner. We lost the game, but at least we see him starting to, figure out his game and have that type of offensive explosion. And then, game or two after, you start to see more of some of that bad behavior that we saw a lot last season, and it all, came to a boil when he came at Emmanuel Quickley. And I think that was crazy because Emmanuel Quickley and also Quentin Grimes, he was in the mix as well. We're trying to save Julius Randle from himself. So you can't turn around and then start to, go off on a guy like Quick, who's trying to look out for you and has your best interest at heart. And I'm pretty sure we all know people in our neighborhoods or in our families or communities that, when they get heated, they don't really want people to put their hands on them. And I understand that. But still, when you're in a professional environment, he's at work. Let's keep it a buck. The guy's at work. You can't have that type of response to people that are on your team, people that are in the trenches with you, and they're trying to help you out and make sure you don't get a technical and, dig an even deeper hole for the team, because we were starting to, battle back. And I felt like the team was starting to figure out what they needed to do in order to, have success against the Orlando Magic. And to start that third, they did come out a little bit flat, but luckily for us, they did start to figure it out towards the latter half of that third quarter and were able to mount a comeback. But I think, after that outburst, everybody was so emotionally spent that they really didn't have it in the end of that, game to really pull through and come out with a victory. So it's extremely unfortunate to see our best player, act like that, and then also to have a head coach in Tom Thibodeau that's not able to try and do something that help correct that behavior. Even though we'll look at some quotes from Jeff Van Gundy where he says there's not really much a coach or a front office can do. It's all going to fall upon a player to kind of fix some of that bad behavior.
Yeah, the league has changed dramatically. The players have changed dramatically. I'm old. There was a player that I grew up with named Calvin Murphy, and I don't know if you ever heard of Calvin Murphy, but he was a dynamite player. He went to Niagara College, and he was this small little guy, but he was a maniac, man. I saw him beat the crap out of giant guys. So I said to you, IQ would have become a legend if we heard it through the grapevine at halftime that he beat even if he didn't, he punched Julius in the face. You got to put a line in the sand, say, I don't care, nobody gets in my face like that. You want to give me that, headbutt, I don't, it just really upsets me that you can do that to your teammate like that. And, Josh had his arm on that, but everyone was looking at him, and it's like, he's sabotaging this team to the worst degree. And then Tibbs doesn't do a damn thing.
Foxy, we don't need anybody swinging on anybody in the locker room. We don't need those bad vibes. We already see Golden State Warriors trying to struggle coming out of that same ordeal they had in the offseason or in the training camp, I believe it was, between Poole.
You're not going to go anywhere, meaning you got to stick up for the team and just saying we're sick of your shit.
So I think Quick did do a good job sticking up for himself. He didn't back down. It looked like he said something actually that triggered Julius Randle even more. It's like Julius Randle expected him to back down, and because he didn't, he had to get a little bit more, animated.
I agree, but I'm not. You know, sometimes you don't have to throw a punch to throw a punch. Meaning with your words, I think the players got to have a intervention with him and say. In fact, I saw a couple times after that incident in the second half, IQ looked his ass off. Like I ain't giving you the freaking ball, man. You know? So they, Tibbs obviously is not somebody. Johnny Bryant doesn't mean shit. The players got to tell him, give him the ice treatment, man. We ain't gonna talk to you. You're gonna pull this shit. You're gonna pull that with, look at like you're gonna get physical with one of our guys on national TV. So I even hate talking about this. It upsets me greatly that we've had this season. We had Brunson. We had all this positive stuff just a couple of weeks ago, and now we're talking about, like you said, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. A term that you used last year about not knowing what Julius is going to show up. We know what Julius is going to be showing up now. One that can't take the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely doesn't look his best when we don't have Jalen Brunson in the lineup. And luckily, it seems like Brunson has returned to practice at least. So hopefully, we'll be able to get him back. But, Brunson right now is dealing with a couple injuries on different limbs. He's dealing with the foot injury, dealing with a hand injury. So there's no guarantee.
Ankle injury.
Yeah, so there's no guarantee he'll be able to be available for a lot of these games to close. Maybe they might hold him back just to make sure he's healthy and available for the playoffs. So in games where Brunson isn't there, we need Julius Randle to be firing on all cylinders if we want this team to come out victorious. And it's not just offensively; it's also defensively. You're seeing some issues with Julius Randle as well. So hopefully, they can do something. The players can have maybe a players only meeting, have a conversation and say, hey, this is detrimental for the long-term success of this team, Randle. You got to relax. We're here for you. We're fighting for you. There's no need for you to turn your negative energy towards us. Keep that energy for the opposition.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that. I just, I don't know any cure. And just meaning, I feel for Jaylen. Did you see the comment he made that he really thought he could be, that he was wishing that he was going to be long term in Dallas?
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. He comes here and he has this bullshit. He has, Julia's getting crazy, Mitchell saying stupid shit. And no wonder when he got the news that Josh Hart was coming here, he had that reaction like, I'm surrounded by freaking idiots, man. Thank God I finally got somebody I can go to war with. Because, go to war with Julius? No, man, I don't know what the hell. I don't want to be in a foxhole with that dude. I don't want to be in a foxhole with Mitch. And RJ, fifth year, fourth year, and he's Mr. Inconsistency. That's the award he'll win this year.
Yeah, I was hoping Julius Randle was starting to figure it out because if you had Brunson playing the way he was playing before he got hurt, and you had Julius Randle playing at an All NBA type level, then you were two pieces, that you thought you can go and actually win a potential championship with if you were able to add some additional pieces. And with the depth we have on this squad, we have the ability to do that. You listen to what Brian Windhurst saying that the Knicks have enough pieces to go and get another piece or two if we feel like this is a core that's good enough to make a push. But with Julius Randle being as unreliable as he's been in the last few games, it's hard for us to really judge whether or not we should go all in, push the chips in, and try to make a move this offseason because we've been saying it here on the channel. Brunson and Randle are only going to be this cost effective for the next, cheap for the next 2 seasons. Because after that, we're going to have to re-up with them. And if Brunson is continuing to ball like crazy, then we're going to have to give him their max money. And if Randle continues to ball, to an all NBA level, he's going to warrant, a max type deal on the open market. So we'd be obligated to then keep the given one to keep him. But if Randle isn't someone we can rely on, then we can't make that trade this offseason to try and build around those two because it's hard to push all your chips in when one of the key cogs is someone that you don't know what you're going to get from game in and game out. So if he is going to continue to play like this, it really puts the front office in a tough spot because now you have to look at whether it's better off to move on from him. And, you're probably still not going to get, the right value in return. Or do you continue to build around those two and see if Randle can figure it out, in the next couple of years?
You got to trade him. I don't know how you can figure this out. You gave him the opportunity to, and also he's a walking time bomb. It has nothing to do about anything externally. It's all on him, man. The only one who could fix Randle is Randle, and I don't see that happening ever. I think this is who he is, and when the pressure gets to him, it's over. And whether you're up by 15 points and like, what are you arguing that call, or what are you getting upset with that referee for, or why are you looking at your teammate and your hands in the air? That was on you, man. This is who he is. So while his value is up or the highest it can possibly be, you have to. I don't. If you keep him, we'll never go anywhere. And also, he has phenomenal stats, but every time you pass him the ball, it becomes ISO. So it's not like you get the ball and 2 seconds later he dribble, and and he's having a fantastic year. But it's not. Playoffs are a whole different scene, and you see what happens to him on doubles and stuff like that. So it's really really sad, disappointing. New York fans deserve better.
Yeah, I'm hoping Brunson can hurry up and get healthy so we can see how those two will look come playoff time. Because to me, that's the big thing. I want to see how Tibbs coaches come playoff time, if he's able to make the right adjustments, or if he's going to get out coached again like he did against the Hawks. And I also want to see how Brunson or how Randle specifically plays when he has a guy like Jaylen Brunson next to him that we know is going to be able to get a bucket when he needs to, and is going to relieve some of the pressure on a Julius Randle. If he's able to show up, then then it might change my thinkings a little bit. But until then, I'm still out there on the fence as to whether or not we should move on from Randle at this point.
Well, that's the cool part about it. I think we can get rid of him quick enough after this season.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Fingers crossed we're able to do something surprising in the playoffs, and these guys are able to click once again. But
where his trade value is high, and then you really get rid of him.
Yeah, we shall see. But I don't know. You trade Randle with the way he's been acting. What do you expect us to get in return?
It just meaning, so keep a guy that you have no future with. Sometimes you just gotta, and I definitely think we'll get more. We'll get more than a penny on the dollar than if we tried to trade him last season.
Well, no, I'm just saying, what would you expect to trade him? Because you want to trade him, but you also want to look at some players, some teams around the league, and see if you can get something in return that'll help us build towards being championship contenders. You think a team like the Pelicans, may want him. I know you've been a big fan of Trey Murphy III. Maybe there's other teams around the league that he could be a fit, and we could get some pieces that might be, good for us long term. Is there anybody around the league that you look at and say, all right, maybe that's someone that could use Randle?
Well, the truth of the matter, from a GM perspective, I would blow up the team. I don't, RJ, his issues, his lack of shot creation, being able to is inconsistent on his shot. So the four position I look at differently than with Randle. So, I brought up last season, I loved a Tari Eason. I love a four that's a low usage four who plays unbelievable defense, lockdown defense, gets rebounds, gets steals, gets blocks, makes baskets. That could be a double-double every freaking night, but he doesn't have to, he's comfortable being a third or fourth option, but he does the dirty work. But we get ourselves a real shooting guard to go with Brunson that can create their shot. That's a real one, and go. RJ, next season we're 7 games away from the end of this season. I don't like talking about a player realizing their potential in their 5th season. This is who RJ is. We have to come to terms that he's a good player. He's a damn good player. He scores 20 points in this league, which is an unbelievable task. And I know he's 22, but I don't look at the 22 after 4 years. He's a 4-year veteran. And I just don't see, where is his, he'll become a little smarter. He ain't going to get faster, jump higher, get quicker. That's for damn sure on both sides of the ball. So, and and his contract first kicks in next season. So we put ourselves in a real tough position to having a crazy man, having a goof at Mitch, and having a slow guy like RJ.
Okay, so we got a poll that I wanted to put in chat. This comes from Ernesto Duverge. He wants to know, do you trust Randle or do you not trust Randle? So I'm asking in the chat, do you trust Randle come playoff time? Yes or no? Let us know in the comment section or in chat and also via the poll. So that brings us to some quotes that were taken from Jeff Van Gundy talking about Randle not being posed um, in high pressure situations. So here, this is from the New York Post. Jeff Van Gundy's response to Randle's outburst. It says emotion and passion lead to better play, but a lack of emotional control and poise lead to lesser play. Jeff Van Gundy told the Post in a phone interview Saturday morning. To play well in the playoffs, to play well in hard fought, highly contested, close games, ultimately, you have to have your best players have a level of poise that leads them to be able to play through rough patches of games or a tough loss in a playoff series and to bounce back. Poise is so very critical to be able to handle late game pressurized situations. And that's one thing we've seen Julius Randle struggle his entire time here with the Knicks. Yes, there's been moments where we've seen him, knock down some key, shots. One of those being the game against the Heat. He was able to knock down the miraculous three. But for the most part, we've definitely seen him struggle in high pressure situations, end of game situations, which is why a lot of us were thrilled with the addition of Jalen Brunson, because now it puts the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands, a legitimate point guard who's going to be able to make those decisions, and it frees up Julius Randle to just focus more so on getting to his spots whenever he gets the ball, as opposed to trying to find things or be a facilitator out there on the court and making bad decisions. So with Brunson now being injured, it allows teams to kind of key on Julius Randle again, and it forces Julius Randle as the engine of the offense. And you're starting to see teams game plan against him. And when he struggles, you start to see that frustration. And when he doesn't get the calls from the refs, that adds upon that frustration. And that's when we start to see these outbursts, and it kind of lends to you having some doubts that he could be a key player that could help us win a championship. So if he's gonna change the opinions of people, he's gonna have to showcase much better emotional control in those high pressure situations.
Agree.
What are
You
your
super chat from Buzzer Beater?
Do we? Let me pull it up. Buzzer Beater, thank you for the super chat. It says, what's the difference between Randle and Rasheed Wallace? I think Rasheed Wallace you can rely on a little bit more. Yeah, he had some, temper tantrums and he got a bunch of texts, but you really didn't see Rasheed, have as many outbursts against his teammates. You didn't see him showing up his teammates when he did something he didn't like out there on the court. And also, by the time Rasheed ended up on those the Celtics, I believe.
He was playing on a stacked team. He wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't the guy. He was a role player.
Role.
Yeah. By the time he got over there with the Pistons, that was Rip's team, that was Chauncey's team, and Ben was that defensive anchor. So he wasn't relied upon the same way we rely upon Julius Randle.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add, or no? You're good, Foxy.
I'm good.
All right. Any additional thoughts you had on what Jeff Van Gundy said?
I agree 100%. I agree totally. That you work all year. I saw a comment a couple of minutes ago from somebody called Liam Neeson about over-emotional dumb take blow up the team. Well, I respect that. We don't all agree, but my time is worth something in my life. I spend 3 hours watching a basketball game and I take notes, and for years I'm doing this. And so I'm all excited about the year. So if I'm over emotional, it's because I'm tired of putting in a lot of hours and time, whether casually or for the show, for something that's not gonna, like I said to you, I'm a New York boy all the way. I don't care if we get beat. I only care if we beat ourselves. And what Julius is doing is help beat ourselves, man. We can't be the best we can be as a team when somebody does the stuff that he does. So if you think that's over emotional, you don't like the takes, then leave the fucking show. I don't give a shit. But the bottom line is I'm invested in this team for a long time, and I'm just tired of this drama. Just play on the court. Why do you see my body language with Josh Hart? That's the way you're supposed to play the game, man. Why do you think I love Jaylen Brunson? That's the way you're supposed to play the game. And when I see guys that do this, that have talent, and they're their biggest enemy, and we're coming into the most 7 games to go, the most important, we're getting ready to rock and roll now, man. Come on, we're just tweaking the little things now, and this is the how we're playing basketball going into the playoffs. It's really depressing and disappoints me. And yeah, if I'm over emotional, I have no issue with that. But there's a reason I'm over emotional. I'm invested.
Yeah, I hear you on that one, Foxy. Definitely is unfortunate that they've started to struggle. And even off camera, we've talked about it. Has this team peaked too soon? Hopefully, that's not the case. Hopefully, when Brunson comes back and this team is healthy, we can start to play a little bit more like we did during that extended win streak we had a few weeks ago. That's one positive, at least takeaway from this is the fact that the team has struggled, but we haven't struggled with the full array of talent. So Brunson has been an extremely important piece of this team, and he's been dealing with some injuries and whatnot. So hopefully, he comes back. This team has a path to kind of turning things around. But as we sit currently with Brunson injured, it is difficult to see, Randle kind of turn this around because the 3-point shot for the last few games has kind of, you know, been non-existent. He hasn't been hitting the three as effectively as he has throughout the season, and teams are once again, keying up on him and forcing him to make bad decisions. So we're gonna need either Brunson to come back healthy or some of these other guys to start to step up and try to, alleviate some of the pressure that is on Julius Randle's shoulders.
There's not a more perfect opportunity for RJ to become Star J. You know, take away the thoughts about Randle, let him become that, that second option or whatever. Let him play to the potential of a number 3 pick and what New York fans have been waiting for. So forget about the season. You're coming into a real important time. Close out the season strong. Start hitting those threes. Start doing other parts of the game with, you can't have a 1-to-1 assist ratio. You got to, kick that ball out. You heard Tibbs in a press conference. He has to be aggressive. That's his, what he's elite at, getting to the hole, finishing, getting to the foul line, hitting his foul shots at a league average or level, and play at least adequate defense. But I'm hoping for RJ. This is the time for you to step up. And if you don't, it says a lot about who he is on the team and also IQ. I'm really super happy with IQ's development over the last couple of years in the running for 6 man of the year, all of that. But I can't help thinking that from a basketball analyst standpoint, we still need another floor general on this team. When Brunson's out, I really like IQ, but I've said it from day one. I look at him as a off guard microwave with playmaking skills, but I don't see IQ as a starting point guard, especially in half court sets. I don't think that's his strength, and so I don't. I think next year's roster, we have to think about. We've seen the Isaiah Thomases, the Boston Isaiah Thomas diminutive guards in this league. They can beat the hell up. And we love Brunson, but we have to be realistic that the charges he takes, the type of game he has, he's going to miss games every year he's here. We've got to have somebody that's a floor general that can run this team when he's not here.
Yeah, IQ is not the floor general in the usual sense, in terms of being strictly a facilitator. But in Tibbs' offense, I think he fills the role pretty well because he's been doing a lot better job of actually penetrating. And then when he does, he has made some solid decisions. For the most part, he's high assist, low turnover. There were a couple moments in the last few games where he was turning the ball over a little bit more than the norm. But I think for the most part, right now, he's a solid option as the backup point guard behind a guy like Jalen Brunson. But, it's interesting you bring that up because we do have a guy that could fill that role, but he's overseas at the moment in terms of Rokas. So hopefully, next season they bring Rokas over and, are able to give him some promises in terms of his role and he could be that backup point guard because I could see Rokas at the 1, Emmanuel quickly at the 2.
Me too.
Where you have a bigger point guard in Jokovitis that can handle some of those roles as being the floor general, and then it would allow Emmanuel quickly to only focus on trying to go out there and get a bucket and knock down his shot and still do some of the other things defensively and with his rebounding. So it is a good, interesting point you brought up there, Foxy.
Yeah. Hey, I think they'd be dynamite. And like I said, I'm really happy with IQ's development, but I don't want to put him in a role that he's maybe not optimal for. You're muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's me. I am. There's a delay on my screen, so I saw you talking. I'm not hearing nothing.
Oh no 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 no.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. So we still have the poll up right now. It's at 79%. Don't trust Randle come playoff time. If you haven't voted in a poll yet, now would be a great time to do so. Also, we've got 68 in chat. Only got 24 likes. Do us a solid. Smash that like button. It will really help with the algorithm and help to promote the show, and we greatly appreciate it. So, sticking on the topic of Julius Randle, but now viewing it from the lens of the coach. How did you feel about some of the things that Tibbs had to say following the blow up? This is a tweet from Tommy Bear. It says for the past 2 years, Tibbs. Oh, whoopsie, wrong tweet. It says, yeah, you allow for idiosyncrasies as long as it doesn't get in the way of winning, Tibbs said Thursday after Randall's most recent emotional outburst. The problem is those idiosyncrasies got in the way of winning last season, and they haven't helped the team this week. So this is, of course, Julius Randle, whenever he has these outbursts, it definitely is detrimental for the team in terms of the energy we have during that game. And also, long term, how are you going to continue, like I mentioned, to build against a guy that you don't know how he's going to respond out there on the court game to game? And it seems like Tom Thibodeau really isn't doing much to try and rein him in and, try and, do something to reduce the amount of outbursts. Of course, guys are going to get technicals as part of the game, but the manner in which Julius Randle gets these technicals and how he responds after he gets one is pretty demonstrative. Not only is he going after the refs in some cases, he's also going after, teammates, staff personnel, and things like that. And I think it's very hard for these guys to focus on basketball when your best player is out there doing some of these things. So how have you felt about the way Tom Thibodeau has responded to some of Julius Randle's outbursts?
An F, I'd give him an F on a report card that, hey, we went through all this last year. It's still in the back of our minds. And like you said, the thing where I disagree, we do know how he's going to react under pressure. This is who he is under pressure. And with idiosyncrasies, hey, idiosyncrasies make the world go round, but it's about idiosyncrasies that don't go outside social norms. He breached so many things, whether getting crazy, whether with IQ last season, smacking laptops the last season with he gave that same evil eye to Fournier. He's out of control, man. And if he can't, compose himself, how do you plan a future? So Tibbs handled this totally wrong, especially after he had last year as something to learn from.
Yeah, Tibbs definitely has a big fat F when it comes to the way he's been handling Julius Randle. He's been handling him with kid gloves for the most part, and you can't have a guy. I don't know if I would go ahead and, bench him, but when you're starting
benched him for the game, I meant.
Yeah, I know.
Not permanently, but just say, hey, your head's not in this. You want to do that shit? Sit out this game. Get your shit together.
Yeah, I don't know if I would bench him per se because we're still trying to win the game. It's a competitive race for that fifth seed. But I'd be a little bit more stern in the way I talked about it come post game. You got to put it out there that that's not something that you condone as a coach, and that's not something that you can do. And if you continue to act like that, it's going to force the hands of the coaching staff to make a decision. And, I think, yes, you can still stand up for your player and show that you support them, but there's certain acts out there on the court that you got to say, it's not something that we want to see and that we're going to continue to allow as a team. And even if you don't bench him, you can do a silent little fine conduct detrimental to the team. Do a little fine here and there because you really can't be going at your teammates like that for the most part. So I closed the poll talking about Julius Randle and whether or not he should be trusted in the playoffs. We have 77% say no, 22% say yes. We're going to put up another poll. This one was recommended by David Smith. I want to know if you guys trust Tibbs come playoff time. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Let me
Great
know
question.
what you guys think, because the jury is still out on Tibbs as well. Yes, they've kind of turned it around this season, but there's still been some questions about his coaching style, his coaching method, and whether or not he'll be able to adjust come playoff time. So to see him not being able to kind of rein in his superstar here towards the end of the season really doesn't bode well come playoff time. So we do have another slide wanted to put up on the screen for you. This one is more from our guy Tommy Bear. It says for the past 2 years, Tibbs made excuses for the inexcusable behavior from Randle. He did so again last night in Orlando. You'd expect the team's head coach to hold the team's only all-star accountable at some point, but we are still waiting. So this is continued from Tibbs. He's allowed Julius Randle to get away with murder, well, everything short of murder. And at some point, he's going to have to do something to try to rein Julius Randle in.
Hey, we were hoping that Johnny Bryant was his whisperer after what he did in the offseason and stuff like that, and whether they had a special connection. And if he went over to him, like, I'm not the rest of the guys. If I'm saying this, please cool down, man. Nah, nobody could talk to him. He gets, that crazy look in his eyes. It's over. And you just have to hope that that the outcome of his outburst is not so severe. So, hey, we have a super chat from the
Paris
wonderful
Duggar.
buzzer beater.
Oh, was one from Paris Duggar I wanted to get into first. It says, it's Tibbs. JR would behave under a disciplinarian. I mean, I'd be interested to see, if you have a disciplinarian as coach. I wouldn't be shocked if Julius Randle might have lost his mind on the coach, too. We've seen that before. But at least with a disciplinarian, he'd be able to, kind of do things behind the scenes to kind of rein him in.
Yeah. Parrish, thank you so much. And Parrish and I being in the same age area, I was going to ask you a few minutes ago, you read my mind. I was like, what do you think Pops would do? From San Antonio. So you think he'd take that crap?
Highly
You don't think he'd put him in his place?
He definitely would. But the thing is, I don't know how he'd go about it, though, because with Pops, he's pretty good at, doing things and not necessarily letting it blow up in the media. Maybe it's just the fact that he's in San Antonio and the media isn't as in people's business as they are here in New York.
Well, one of these days, maybe we need a coach to say, what do you think of Drew? That was bullshit. We're in an important game. That's unacceptable. That's absolutely unacceptable behavior. Put that out there, man. Let him hear that.
Facts. Also,
rather than poor little Julius, take it easy. We're Julius, it'll be okay. Take your Adderall or your Xanax, whatever the hell you need.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Buzzer B that says, Foxy, raise your hands and say serenity now.
Yeah, he's so cool. You're a wonderful buzzer beater. I saw that and you made me smile. But yeah, exactly. Serenity now. Serenity and a couple shots of Jack.
Yeah, man. Tibbs, he's going to have to figure out what to do with Julius Randle because this can't keep happening, man. You can't have the best player implode and now start to go after his own teammates. It was one thing when he was going after the ref. Yeah, that was unfortunate. It's going to get us a team. We're going to lose or have the opposing team give the opportunity to knock down a free throw. But when that negative energy starts to be directed towards actual teammates, it could have a long-standing effect in that locker room, especially with a young guy like Emmanuel Quickley, who we view as a long-term piece with this team. And, at some point we're going to start negotiating to try and, keep him here long-term. And Julius Randle going off on him and barking on him damn sure ain't going to help.
Yeah, and you shared something with me the other day that we laughed at, but there's a whole lot of serious behind it. Where Reggie Bullock said, "You're not going to get any minutes on a Tibbs team unless you play defense," and then Theo Pinson chimed in and said, "Unless you're Julius Randle."
Yep.
And even though that was funny, it's not funny because he was telling the truth.
It shows the favoritism on the team. Everybody can play defense, but when it's Julius Randle, Tibbs is going to appease him and say, okay, that's not a big deal. We'll point the blame at somebody else. And you see Julius Randle do that all the time on the court. When he misses an assignment, he's the one pointing and saying, yo, that's your fault.
Yeah, I know, man.
So let's close the poll, see what everyone has to say. So with this poll, looks like we have 79% say no, they do not trust Tibbs come playoff time. And then we've got 21% say yes, they do trust Tibbs in the playoffs. Foxy, where do you fall on it?
I don't trust him. You know, he's a 65-year-old guy. You know, the maturation process, he is who he is. And 25-36 career playoff record, lost the last two series 4-1, 4-1. Doesn't look good, man.
Yeah. Hopefully, some of the changes he's made in season, he'll continue to show some promise come playoff time. But until I see him do it come playoff time, I'm still on the fence. I really don't have trust in Tibbs. Of course, I wanted to move him last at the end of last year, but then they went on a nice little streak after they condensed the rotation. So it only made sense to continue to allow Tibbs to do what he's doing and see how far he can go with it. But I think for the most part, this team won't be able to be legitimate championship contenders with Tibbs still at the reign. But of course, I'm open to being proven otherwise. So come playoff time, if he's able to show that he's learned from some of his errors in other spots as the head coach, then maybe I can change my opinion. But as of right now, still don't think he's the guy that's gonna really help us win that championship.
And just this season, hey, Deuce had the game, had this great game. Our perimeter defense all of a sudden has taken a hit. Put some Deuce in there, man. What do Brunson's out. Play Deuce more. Why aren't you playing Deuce more minutes? He showed he started getting his rhythm and stuff like that. So he's consistently doing stuff. One thing is, hey, man, Obi, oh my God, he missed another defensive assignment. I can understand, as crazy as it sounds, why he feels the way about Obi. When if you watch a lot of film, it's like, what the hell are you doing, Obi? But that's not Deuce. He's every time he's on the court, his plus minus is off the roof, positive. You saw him, his game coming together. Give Deuce some burn. And now is the perfect time with JB on the bench with his malady of injuries.
Yep. Definitely. I'm a big fan of Deuce. He wasn't hitting his shot earlier on in the season, which was frustrating. But the last time we really saw him get some big minutes, he went out there and he had, 18 points. Was able to knock down the three, always going to give you solid defense. So, yeah, you'd like to see him get a little bit more burn. Only had 6 minutes in the game against the Magic. I think we definitely could have used him a little bit more. The shooting wasn't there per se, for only 1 of 3. But he really only had 6 minutes, not enough time to really get going. So, we're already down Brunson. He's hurt. And you've got Tibbs pretty much going with an 8-man rotation, which was kind of crazy. You would have liked to see him, throw Deuce in a little bit more as opposed to, overplaying guys like Quickly.
Or having Grimes and or Hart really playing a point guard role.
Yeah. Yeah, but, talking about Grimes has been doing his thing, man. He's definitely been going off, been a big fan of what he's been doing recently. Been surprising for the most part. He's been hit or miss. But now he's been knocking down the three, showed a little bit of game off the dribble, getting into the paint, finding teammates and things like that. How have you felt about Grimes' performance recently?
The last several games, exactly what we've wanted from him. He's a good ball player, man, hitting his threes. Hey, coming out of Houston, shot 40, basically damn near 40 last year. I think he's up in 38 and change now. He's getting close to that 40. That's what we're expecting from him. That's not overachieving. That's who he is. But like you said, attacking closeouts the way he is. I hope he goes to the hole a little more than keep kicking it out. But yeah, he's played splendid, man. And then you and I, how many times you and I in the SV Nation have said, Jesus Christ, had 3 shots the whole game, or Jesus, that's his first shot of the game. Come on. And again, it comes back to Tibbs. If you have a player like that, run some screens, run some curls, let him get off his shot. You want everybody, invested. Let him feel good about he's like part of the offense. Obviously, he's not going to come out with remarks like Mitch, like, hey, man, you're killing me. But, because he's a real team player. But look at those stats, folks. And 0 turnovers. So, solid defense, no turnovers, doing everything that he can to help the team win. That's like Josh Hart, like that's Jalen Brunson, like that's a quality player, man.
Yeah, so you can see in his last two games, Quentin Grimes has been averaging 23.5 points per game while shooting 57% from the field, 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Like Foxy said, no turnovers, 1.5 steals, 11 of 20 from the 3 point line, which is good for 55% from three. And he's been plus 17 in those 2 games. And what I liked is the fact that not only is he doing it offensively, he's been a disruptor defensively. I forgot which game it was, if it was against the Heat or the Magic, but he single-handedly snuffed out a fast break, and it definitely ended up being key. He stopped them from getting an easy 2 buckets, and we didn't end up winning the game. But it's moments like that that you can see a player that can help contribute to winning basketball, and you'll be thrilled to have more and more players like that on your team. We know we definitely have about three for sure. In Grimes, Hart, and Jalen Brunson, still on the fence about some other players. But with Grimes, if he can continue to play like this offensively, it's going to justify the Knicks not wanting to include him in a trade. And, if he can get a little bit more involved in the offense, maybe it'll help develop his game some more. Josh Hart came here and really took a hit to his minutes, but in recent games, he's been able to knock down the three. He's also knocking him down on both ends. For the most part, he's been kind of hit or miss from the right side, but he did knock down one in the second half of the game against the Magic. So hopefully he can continue to figure it out shooting from that side of the court. But for the most part, with the offensive effort he's been able to put out there, what he's able to do defensively, he's definitely a key guy that I think has a long-term role on this team. And if not, he's definitely going to be a solid trade piece as well if we try to move him to better this squad. But we just need him to be more consistent. And of course, every game he's not going to go out there and drop 24, especially with Jalen Brunson returning. But we have to find ways to get him more than just 2 or 3 shots a game. If you can get him 8, 7 shots, I think you're going to find a lot of quality looks for him. And like you said, we need to see him do a little bit more off ball as well. Look at what they're doing in Golden State with that offense. See if you can pull some things and start to implement them with guys like Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny what Keith said when we were in the lab and we were looking at his shooting hot zones. He is a shooter from the left side of the court, and he's not a shooter from the right side. So next season, you don't do your development now, but next season, we really want him to start hitting more shots on the right side because it makes him not so predictable.
Yeah, it definitely makes him a lot more dangerous too, and it gives
A
us
lot more dangerous.
more flexibility in some of the plays we can run for him as well. Just think
Yeah,
about
I'm
it.
looking for a midi when he attacks those closeouts next year to pull up for a nice midi. He doesn't do that. Go more to the hole, instead of kicking it out like we said. And a lot of times he leaves his feet, so he's a no man's. But he has a real good feel for the game. We've seen passes this year that we've said, "Wow, that was beautiful." So we just want to build on that and see further development.
It has to be a
And
little
the
bit
only
more
thing,
control to when he attacks off the closeouts.
yeah, and my only thing I feel for him is that he's been put in difficult positions. He's a true two, and they put him sometimes against threes, and you're asking too much for him to go against 6'7", 6'8" guys, man. It's not, it's too much for him.
Yeah, definitely a lot to ask. But he's giving his all out there. So
Always.
salute to him for that. Always giving 100% effort. And, you love to see that from a fan. It's just sometimes we put him in a bad spot.
Or Tibbs puts him in a bad spot. And like you said earlier with Deuce, it's a game of rhythm. So it's very hard to get into an offensive rhythm if you're only touching the ball 4 or 5 times, man. Yeah. And he's so unselfish, very, Josh Hart like, that he just keeps it, take the shot, man. Take the shot.
We got a super chat from Jay Bookie. Says we need to get away from a 9 or a 10-man rotation and start using a whatever is needed rotation. Everybody on this team has a key moment to be used. Facts, Jay Boogie. Thank you for the super chat. Really do appreciate the contribution. You look at the depth on this team, we definitely have enough guys to open up that rotation, especially when you're dealing with an injury with a guy like, Jalen Brunson. Like we mentioned, there's no reason you should kind of shrink down the rotation to virtually an 8-man rotation when you have a guy like Deuce who's been killing and been playing, solid the last few times he was used, back when Brunson was initially nursing that injury. So it's
Yeah, thank
unfortunate.
you. I was just saying thanks, Jay Boogie, and all we need to look at is Golden State. They won championships with 12-man rotation, so it works. And also keeping your players fresh. And like we said, sometimes 12-man, it doesn't have to. We're not talking 15, 20 minutes though for those extra players. But those few minutes here and there, that's the difference in crunch time of somebody having that second win or not having it.
Facts. Let's see what we got going on in chat. Hit him up says RJ and Grimes are packing their bags to Chicago next season for Zach LaVine. I hope not.
I hope not.
Yeah, stay far away from Zach LaVine. You hear him talk about saying he's not as bad as a defender as people are making it seem, but that means you're just not out there trying. And if you feel like you're a better defender, because I don't think he's all that great the way he's talking.
How great could he be on a left knee that he keeps going to specialist on, and in that contract, he has a crazy contract. You want to be paying him $50 million, folks?
Right. I mean, there's only a few players that warrant that $50 million price tag, and unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we have no skin in the game. But Zach LaVine's not one of them. He's a great player, and maybe on the open market that's his value, but in terms of what he's able to contribute to a team towards winning basketball, I don't know if he warrants that type of price tag.
X
couldn't be me, but God bless the Chicago Bulls and their fan base. They're gonna have to be the ones to deal with it.
For years.
Well, who knows? They probably still end up trading him. I just hope they don't trade him this way.
Who wants to take on a contract like that, man? With a guy with a knee like that?
Hey, a team gave him the contract, so somebody be willing to take the risk and bring him on. He's making 37 this year, 40 next year, 43 the year after, 45 after that, and then he has a player option for 48, which is pretty much 49 mil, which he's definitely gonna pick up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's nuts. Yeah. So you want a contract? How old is he at the 49?
At the 49, he's 31. So still fairly young.
He's still in his peak. But
yeah.
Unfortunately, he's 31 with a 45-year-old left knee.
Yeah. So, and it looks like he'll be taking up about 31.57% of the cap.
We have another super chat from the wonderful Buzzer Beater.
Salute to Buzzer Beater. Thank you for the super chat. He says, are we going to get Beal or Dame? Highly doubt it. I think if we do go out there and try to target another player to bring in, it won't be another guard. It might be more so a wing, or maybe a swap of Mitch for a better center, someone that has a better offensive game. But I don't see us going after another shooting guard or point guard. What about you, Foxy? What do you think?
I'm with you, my brother. That this team is in desperate need of a lockdown 6'8" wing, 6'9" wing. We're all full up on 6'5" guys.
Yep, and even if they were to go after a guard, I don't think it would be one of those guys, a guy at the age of Bill or Dame. They probably would be better off trying to target, SGA with from the Thunder if they were going to try to build a package to bring in one of those two guys. And I highly doubt the Thunder are going to move off of SGA. He's going crazy over there in OKC.
He's the only player, folks. Whether Donovan, everyone that's, he's the only one that I would say if you're going to go in, that's the only player in the league at his age, his talent that I'd go for.
Yep, and he's also two-way guy too at that guard position with some size.
6'6".
Yeah, solid offensively. One of the best shot blockers as a guard, so he can give you that defensively. And
touch.
Touch. He can facilitate. He can pretty much do it all out there. The 3-point shot. He can knock that down as well. So he would be the guy I would want the Knicks to pursue if they're looking to go after another guard. Dame and Bill, their best days are behind them. They're just pretty much collecting a check and showing up to work at this point. Well, Dame isn't really even going to be showing up to work either because they're about to sit him down for the rest of the season, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That they're going to shut him down for the rest of the year. That's what rest of the season when I saw yesterday.
Listen, I got to holler at mine, Paul, to see if they can shut me down for the rest of the year with pay too. They got something like that. It's called a severance package.
Yeah, you look at some of the salaries on these guys, it's crazy.
Yeah, man, that is nuts. And to not play, let them show up to work. Y'all not go competing for a championship at the man. Go up there. People paid money to see him play. Let him play.
Yeah,
What are you ducking and dodging? The injury? He got a guaranteed contract. If he gets injured, he's still gonna get paid his money. Let him play.
exactly.
Crazy. The world we live in, the NBA world we live in nowadays.
It's getting worse.
Yeah. Speaking of players in the modern day NBA, got to talk about Mitch, man. What's going on with Mitch? He apologized on Knicks Fan TV's IG. Didn't want his words to be taken as he was, coming at the team, or he didn't want any smoke, et cetera, et cetera. But now he goes on Twitter and he starts liking, these weird comments or weird tweets by other people, pretty much saying that he'd be better off elsewhere. It says, "I guarantee." This is a tweet by someone named Heath B. It says, "I guarantee if you went to Dallas or San Antonio, those coaches would make sure you, as a 7 foot center, would get the ball, and if the players didn't give you the ball, they'd be sitting on the bench." I don't understand what's going on, Mitch. Just leave the social media alone. You can't go and apologize and then turn around the next day and do this. Because then at that point, we're not going to really take any of your apologies seriously moving forward. If this is how you're moving, just leave it alone. If you want to have that type of conversation, wait till the end of the season. But right now, the team is in the trenches. The team is struggling, and we don't need you to do these type of things out there on social media. Yeah, you have every right to like whatever tweet you want to like on social media, but you also have to understand that people are watching your social media and they're gonna report on anything you say that might be anti Knicks, and this being one of them. So, Foxy, how did you feel with this tweet? You know,
Didn't
picking up.
surprise me. He's been a goof.
Here you go, Foxy.
In psychology, in psychology, there's a term, McGregor's behavioral theory. It's about maturation. We talked about Randle. This is who he is, and this is who Mitchell is. He's that type of guy that and some of the guys on the team, after the last stupid thing where he apologized, they just said, well, Mitch is a character. But after a while, we've all known people. It's like, but that character's annoying. We're coming to a really important time of the year where we don't have any room for this. He's made bad decisions his whole freaking professional career. How many freaking agents has he had? 6, 7 agents?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
So the agent, if you had an agent, you had family, you have mentors, confidants. Mitch, get off social media. Just get the hell off social media. There's just take a breather. You want to come up in the summer or something. Right now, after everything, it's a good time for you. Just don't do another thing. And if they interview him, he'll have that look on his face like, my bad. And it's like you said earlier, he has 3 years after this, folks, descending. I think his last year is like 12 and change. If we can get someone, and also forget about the every game you go through the emotion. Oh my God, Mitch is down. Oh my God, is he holding his knee? Oh my God, Mitch is limping. Oh my God, it feels like he's never, ever going to be healthy. So no offensive game. His rookie season, he averaged 3.3 fouls per game. This year, he's averaging 2.8. So people I'm using that as a reference. Like, what has he really developed? Where's the development? His foul shooting, his, offensive game, on defense. He's an injury-prone guy. I said it last week. I would have never signed him in the first place. But you hear this, that apology meant nothing when you say you like a thing saying, and also more than anything, and I said it last week, are you delusional, man? Do you think you have an offensive game? Do you really? You're playing the best players in the world, and you think you have an offensive game that should be highlighted in the NBA? Then you know what? You got issues. You got major issues.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Mitch, definitely still one of my favorite Knicks in terms of what he can do on his team defensively, but offensively, he really doesn't have much that you can put your hat on. I mean, he's had moments throughout his career, but those moments are literally maybe 2 or 3 where you can look at and say, okay, we saw him do something offensively that can make us, give us a little bit of confidence to think that he can do things out there or do a little bit more out there on the court. And for him to continue, being this disgruntled. I mean, look around the league, bro. The grass isn't always greener. You don't see uh, big men becoming major parts of the offense. You look at guys like Rudy Gobert. You look at guys like Clint Capella. They're only getting about 8 shots a game. Which is of course more than what Mitchell Robinson is getting. But they showcase more offensive skills than you have. And there's times where you do get offensive rebounds, and when you do try to go back up, you're not really doing anything that shows that you have, you know, more to give offensively. For the most part, you get the ball, you go back up and dunk it, and if you don't have that, you just kick it back out. You don't try and go up and showcase any of these moves you say you've been working on. So for me, it's hard to know what's going on in practice to say, okay, behind the scenes, Mitch is showing him that he can be a bigger threat offensively, and they're just not giving him the ball. And like I said last week, you don't see teammates going through, sticking up for Mitch and saying, yeah, Mitch should deserve a larger role in the offense. So it shows me that you're not really showing them much behind the scenes either to warrant an increased role offensively. And again, you look at the other guys on this team. We talked about Quentin Grimes in the previous segment. He needs to get more touches, and I think Quentin Grimes needs more touches than Mitchell Robinson. So you do
You
fall,
think?
well, yeah. So you fall way down in terms of the pecking order. Your value to this team is the fact that you don't need the ball. That is your biggest value. So now you're complaining, saying you want the ball more. At that point, it may be best for this team to start to look to move on from him if he's going to be disgruntled about his role in the offense. Because if we're going to have a center that's going to be more involved in the offense, then maybe we include Mitchell Robinson in the deal to bring in a more offensively gifted center, especially if he's going to be this disruptive. Not necessarily in the locker room, because I don't know how he's acting in the locker room, but at least on the socials and what the narrative about the team. If you're going to be this disruptive, it might be better off. We might be better off moving on from him in the offseason.
This is not going to stop, especially after the apology last week. You had to have players, whether vets like Brunson or Hart, or players, younger players like IQ. Like, come on, Mitch, man, you can't do that stuff. Come on, bro, we're getting into the playoffs. Oh, okay, yeah, man, my bad. And then he does this. This is who he is. He's going to keep doing it. He's going to absolutely keep doing it. But it bothers me that we saw more development in 1 year in Jericho Sims shooting his form and everything from the foul line than we've seen in 5 years from Mitchell Robinson shooting foul shots. That bothers me because you have to take ownership. Whether you like RJ or you don't like RJ, he put his hand into his pocket, Drew Hanlon, get a shooting guy. He wants to be the best he can be. You can't see anything that Mitch is doing shooting foul shots where you're saying he hired, if he hired a shooting guy to teach him to shoot foul shots like that, that guy should be, kicked out of the NBA, or his license should be revoked or whatever. It's just not acceptable. You want to see players who take ownership of their development, and you can't shoot foul shots like that. It's embarrassing, and it's disrespectful to the game.
Yeah, Mitch definitely has to pick up with his free throw shooting. I don't know if I say it's disrespectful to the game, because there's other guys that have struggled with their free throw shooting. Sometimes it's just not something that guys are good at. But I mean, if you can't get better at shooting the free throws, it's going to be hard to justify letting you get an expanded role offensively if you have already shown you can't develop that area of your game. So hopefully he'll be able to do a little bit more. We won't see it by the end of this season, but maybe if he's still here next year, he'll work on that free throw shooting, like we said, and maybe Tips will give him a little bit more leeway in terms of what he's able to do offensively. I mean, you look at the other centers. iHeart for the most part doesn't really do a lot offensively, but what's so key with him is the fact that there's some versatility in the shots that he can take. Everything isn't a dunk or a layup. He's got that 6 to 8 feet where he can throw up a floater and threaten the defense that way. And he doesn't shoot the three. We expected him to come in and shoot the three, but just him being able to knock down that floater helps with the spacing compared to a guy like Mitchell Robinson. Because if Mitchell Robinson had a little bit more to offer in terms of the shots that he can put up, he wouldn't be parked under the paint every time people are trying to drive. Like I said, compare that to what iHeart does. iHeart gives a little bit more room for the driver to find him, and he's able to knock down shots within that 6 to 8 feet range. Hopefully, Mitch can develop that, and once he's able to develop that, then we can start working our way further and further from the basket.
With you. We have several super chats.
Several. Oh, they're running it up. All right, thank you guys. So Soul Train, he wants to ask. He says, Foxy, please talk about Kason Wallace at Fansided.
He's probably the safest. Thank you for so much, Soul Train, for the super chat. He's probably the safest picked in this draft. Uh, Unbelievable point of attack defender, unbelievably quick hands, tough, strong, great motor, fundamentals. He terrorizes opponents. Off ball defense is fantastic, disruptive in passing lanes. Great catch and shoot, very good, I'll say, catch and shoot with touch, shot over 40% on pull up, 60% at the rim, nice midi game. His only thing, he's a tendency goes right almost every time. He takes care of the ball, so no unnecessary turnovers. He's a coach's dream, man. He needs a little better handles to create space and separation for himself to get the shot because he does lack explosive. I wish he had a more explosive first step and was a little more athletic. But but he, the only other thing is had a nagging back injury throughout this season. So I get scared on back injury. So hopefully it's nothing. But thank you so much for Kason is a really safe pick. Whomever gets Kason Wallace, that coach is going to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Also, we got a super chat from Buzzer Beater. Says, Keith, give me your boss's number and I'll tell him what he can do with that job. We need you and Foxy putting out content full time. Go Knicks. I'll let him know. I'll take a screenshot of that other comment you put on the film breakdown. I'll send it over to him and see what he says because he knows about the channel. He's popped up a few times in chat. So
I have to admit, I'm with Buzzer Beater. I absolutely adore your film breakdown. I think it's the best in the business, man. You have phenomenal film breakdowns, and I look forward to every one of them.
Thank you, Foxy. Really do appreciate that. And then, we got another Buzzer Beater from another Buzzer Beater. We got another super chat from Buzzer Beater. It says, "Are you gonna do film breakdowns after each game?" It's hard for me to promise doing them after every game because with the way work is set up, I might not always have the time, but I'm going to try to do as many as I can. The one against Houston, I might be able to do a breakdown for that one, and then also a one against the Heat. So stay tuned for those two. I should be able to drop some for those two games, but I can't guarantee every single game will get a breakdown. That's the goal, ideally, but with the way work is set up, you guys know how that goes.
Yeah, how dare you have a life? I don't understand that.
Yeah, man. It's not just one job, too. It's two.
Yeah. I see my good friend from Westchester's Finest, Sherwin, has pulled up. He said, "Good afternoon, Stephen. I heard you say this draft class is not good. I never said it was not good. I disagree. It's the deepest draft class ever. I think it's a deep draft class for role players. I just don't see stars. I just don't see stars at all.
See a lot of projects, right?
A hell of a lot of projects, but I also see, even when they realize their potential, that there will be a role player, that they won't nowhere near an all-star. So it's pitiful. I've never seen an NCAA tournament where all the players in the lottery are, played, so there was nothing dominant about them. So Victor Wembanyama is obviously in Europe. He's shooting 20% from three, so he's not that stretch. I'll go into it when we do draft things, but injury after injury. Scoot Henderson, his defense is brutal. I mean, bad. He shot 20% from, 20% per three. Brandon Miller had a 0-point game. And then he, and also in a real important game, he shot like crap. Amen Thompson and his brother are playing against elevated high school players in the overtime league. So they're great athletes, but they can't shoot. Cam Whitmore is an athlete. He can't shoot. Jarace Walker, played okay, but like I said, I only see a role player at his level. Kason Wallace, I just talked about. JJ touched on it. He didn't play really, they're not it'll be difficult. They're going to ask him to play a point guard, and it's not something he really did in college. So he's going to go through what we go through with Maxey, with Philadelphia Maxey, what we go through with IQ. Everybody trying to make a point guard out of somebody that comes out of Kentucky. Grady Dick, best shooter in the draft, but I don't, but Bryce Sensabaugh doesn't play defense. He can shoot. Anthony Black can't shoot. So I have to disagree. There's so many things on those. That's probably the top 12 players there, Sherwin. Victor, Victor was a star, but the other guys, wow, man, there's a lot of holes in their game. A lot of holes in their game. When we looked at Ben Caro last year, you said, whoa, you looked at Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, and a lot of it, if you listen, we said, or I said, a lot of these guys, it's not what they're going to do this year, what they'll do in 2 or 3 years from now. But a lot of the guys, I always said, check out the last month of the season where the game slows down and stuff. But, Mathurin, Ivy, Keegan Murray, Jabari Smith, Ben Caro, Shaden Sharp, Jaylen Williams on OKC, who was my sleeper. He'll probably be all rookie team. He's having a phenomenal year at OKC. Abaji had a huge game last night along with Walker Kessler. I think he had 31. Terry Easton's having a fantastic year. Freaking AJ Griffin was the 16th pick, in last year's draft. And I absolutely think it's a good draft for role players that just don't see stars.
No stars this year. You heard it first from Foxy.
Well, there may be one or maybe two, but the rest are going to be good quality role players.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But you hate picking somebody at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 who you have to first teach to shoot. Literally.
Yeah, that's never a good starting point right there.
Yeah.
All right, so just to finish off with Mitchell Robinson, I did see someone mention that two guys we could look to acquire if we do trade Mitch could be Joel Embiid and Cat. So we do have a trade to put on screen for you guys just to see what you guys think about it. This would be a deal that we could do in the offseason to try to bring in a guy like Joel Embiid. We can give up RJ, Mitch, and 4 first-round picks. And this would pair Joel Embiid with Julius Randle and also Jalen Brunson. So, Foxy, how would you feel about a deal like this if we were to go after a guy like Joel Embiid if he feels like, things aren't working out with Philly?
Today's NBA is a wing focused league. I don't, Joel Embiid, props to him, an elite player, MVP running. If he doesn't win it this year, but he's been in the running every year. But his age, I think he'll be 30 next year. 280, 300-pound guys, been in the league. They take a big bang and very similar to Mitch every game. You're like, oh my God, is he going to get up? If I'm going to go all in, we said SGA earlier, I'm going for a wing. It's a different NBA today. I wouldn't put all my money in the 5 like that, personally.
Yep, I hear you on that, Foxy. And I'd have to agree. Joel Embiid is a star player, but I'd try to save those first-round picks and also RJ Barrett to try and bring in, a guy that can guard bigger threes and also give me a bucket when needed. And we'll try and talk about some other targets later on in the stream that could be potential options for the Knicks. But, Joel Embiid, solid player. But I don't know if I would exhaust all my options to bring him in if I have the opportunity to bring in another 3 that I can pair with Brunson and Julius Randle.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We've got hit him up saying RJ, he trade him for OG Anunoby.
They would never do that.
Who, us or the Toronto?
Toronto. RJ does not match Ujiri's, long and athletic, prototype that he likes for players. Slow and can't jump.
There were some discussions between the two teams that come trade deadline for us to bring in OG. I wonder what players were involved in those discussions. Because you never got any concrete information. Well, yeah, probably tip Obi out of town.
Obi is more of a type of a player than RJ. I can't see RJ being attractive to their type of player that they like. Sherwin made a comment about Jed Howard on Michigan. Yo, doesn't do anything. Just meaning, yeah, he shoots okay, but doesn't rebound. He's terrible on defense. Has terrible feet. He's not athletic. He can't really create his own shot, and he's just pretty much a jump shooter. He only had 25 half-court buckets at the rim in 29 games this year. He's more of a diva than a dog, man. He won't fit our culture. That's for damn sure. If his own father, Jawan, benched him a couple times this year for his behavior, what the hell do we want to have anything to do with a guy like that?
Yeah, I hear you on that, Foxy. We got a comment from my guy, George, from Into the Knicks Verse. He says, Keys Foxy, if you could only acquire one player to take these Knicks over the top, who would it be? Now, I got to know the parameters. Are we talking realistic options? Or are we talking anybody in the league that I can bring over? Or are you saying, who's another guy that can fit this core and we could actually have an opportunity to acquire? Because if we can just pick anybody, I might say, a guy like Giannis or a guy like Tatum. But if you want a more realistic target, who could be a realistic target? Probably be a wing. You hear Jaylen Brown, him being a little disgruntled. If the Celtics would be willing to make a trade within the division, he might be a guy I'd be interested in moving, swapping him for RJ, maybe some other pieces. What say you, Foxy, with those two parameters? Anybody in the league and then a realistic target.
Well, you heard me, from a roster construction standpoint, that sometimes, obviously, we just talked about it. So you're going to go balls to the wall and try to get the one. SGA is the one that makes sense from an age, talent, complementary talent standpoint. But sometimes if you can't get that player, I've said this and you said it earlier in the stream, a guy like a Trey Murphy, that use up assets. They're loaded. They're between CJ, Zion, and Brandon Ingram, that's over $100 million right there. So the money, they have Herb Jones, they have all these players there. I don't know how they're going to be coming up with money, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes Mikal Bridges. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get him now, but a Mikal Bridges on this team would have been spectacular because he would have been complimentary. He's the lockdown defender. He's a true 3-and-D. He's a blink away from 50, 40, 90 every season. That's what we need, is that type of guy. And they're just so far. It's hard to get good wings in this league, especially durable. Mikal Bridges, I think, is the Ironman of the league in terms of not missing a game for God knows how long. But he's untouchable. Nets will never trade him to us. So I would go the Trey Murphy route. And if I couldn't get a Trey Murphy, I'd go a little less down and say Herb Jones. He's not as sexy as Trey Murphy, but he's a lockdown defender. Stop having RJ. Stop having Quentin Grimes. Stop having Josh Hart going against 6'8", 6'9" guys. Put a 6'9" guy against a 6'9" guy.
Yep, so there we go. George, hope that answered your questions. We gave unrealistic options, and then we gave one realistic option each. All right, let's see what else we got going on in chat.
And you brought up Jaylen.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable talent, but if he makes an All-NBA team, he can get a Supermax contract. That's $290 million, folks. That's $58 million this year. $58 million a year. And also just for Jaylen Brown, we know he had the face injury from the elbow from Tatum. Mm-hmm. So this is his injuries going back to his rookie season. Face injury, abductor injury, neck injury, knee injury, ankle injury, hamstring injury, knee injury, health protocol, wrist injury, shoulder injury, knee injury, hip injury, knee injury, health and safety protocols, right thigh, ankle, hamstring, calf, ankle, thumb, low back spasms, back, hand, back, foot, sore right hamstring, head, sprained left ankle, sore leg, left Achilles, right eye. He gets banged up a lot, man. I don't want to spend $58 million a year for a guy that for some reason's banged up a lot. 58 million, that's crazy money. And if I'm paying 58 million, I want somebody that has a track record of durability.
It's crazy money. I'll agree with you, but as long as he's healthy for one playoff run and it gets us to a championship, it'll be well worth it. You can be injured for the next 3 years. I don't give a damn. Just get us one chip.
We'll be broke tomorrow. Let's live for tonight. Let's go crazy tonight. Let's take a plane to Vegas. Let's live it up. And tomorrow it's macaroni and cheese.
Hey, listen. If I was a Lakers fan, I'd be perfectly fine with the LeBron era. You traded for him, you got one ring, and you live with it. Same thing if we were to go and bring in a guy like Jaylen Brown. If we were to bring him in and he's only healthy for 1 year, but in that 1 year we win a championship, I think everybody's gonna still look at that contract fondly. So it is a risk. I won't disagree there. But if you look at a guy like Jaylen Brown, what he can do with that 3 position, with the defense he can provide, him being a bucket getter when you need a bucket, and how he could potentially fit with a guy like Brunson and also Julius Randle if he figures it out, you can definitely start to see the makings of a championship contender, and you probably still be able to make some more moves thereafter to see if you can build that team up a little bit more. So I'd be open to bringing in a guy like Jaylen Brown even if the price tag is going to be a little bit higher than expected, because at the end of the day, you're going to want somebody of that caliber, and that's going to be the going rate for players at that point, especially with the increase of the cap, things like that. Because if you draft a player that's as good as Jaylen Brown and he does what Jaylen Brown has done for the Celtics, you wouldn't be open to paying him that type of money to keep him?
I would, but he in this draft. I'm with you. But just looking, we have Brunson under contract, RJ under contract, Randle under contract, Mitch under contract, and we want to sign IQ and Josh Hart. So for monies to, we have to get rid of we have to get rid of Mitch. We have to whether we have to really clean house to get monies to be able to take him in. And I just don't think. We talked about Grimes. We talked about IQ. Some players may be attractive to talent evaluators over at, but our draft picks are not lottery bound picks. Like we said, the only thing worse than a bad team is a mediocre, a little better than a mediocre team. You're just not going to get the draft picks. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what would be attractive to them to trade with us. And if we did trade, we'd have to really do salary dumps left and right, man, to try to get him on this team. He's talented. He's athletic. We need athleticism in the worst way, man.
Yeah, JJ says dump RJ and Mitch in the offseason. Jay says buy IQ. Jay says he's going to make RJ plus 4J money. Not that bad. Pudge Nice doesn't believe he's that good. Jay says I'm offering 6 picks to move up in the draft. I don't know if I would do that, right, Foxy? Because there's no stars in the draft, so I don't know why you dumped that many.
6 picks for whom? Yeah. And if you're saying Brandon Miller, did you watch the tournament, folks? And I'm not even talking about, some of the off the court stuff, so he can't make his own shot. So, earlier, about a couple of months ago, I brought up Brandon Miller on my draft targets. And I said it then, and you could say, I compared him to Jabari Smith, that can't make his own shot, so he's going to be a catch and shoot guy. He has this really low release on his shot, so it scares the hell out of me at the NBA level. Meaning, I think he'll be a good player, but he's not a lockdown defender, at least at this point in time. He's just an average athlete. So why would you use all those picks last year? I said, use those picks, get up Mathurin, use those picks to go up. And,
Mathurin
didn't do it last year. So this is not the right year to do that.
Yeah, we tried. We tried to move up for Ivy. I would have liked to see if they could move up and get Mathurin, see if we could have added him. But
I don't think it was in their mindset.
Which is crazy, because that's exactly the type of player we need.
Exactly. He'll be all NBA rookie team. Probably, because of Banchero won't win the Rookie of the Year award, and but it'll be all NBA rookie team, first team Mathurin, and what else do you want?
Yeah, you can play defense. Still figuring out trying to be efficient, shooting 43% from the field and 32% 100% from the 3 point line, but he fits the mold of being a solid wing defender, and he can get you some offense as well.
Yeah. We have another buzzer beaters again. Another super chat. He's wonderful.
Thank you, Buzzer Beater, for the super chat. It says, "We are a forgiving country. If Miles Bridges proves he has fixed his issues and makes amends with his family and the fans, do we give him a shot?" I mean, if he makes amends, and is apologetic and realizes he did wrong, I'd be open to giving him a contract. I just don't know if the Knicks want to get involved in a situation like that, especially with the way the media will respond if we bring him in. But I'd be open to giving him a chance if the money's reasonable. I think he's still unsigned. I don't know if he'll ever return back to Charlotte. Maybe that might be something that they'll negotiate in the offseason. But, and also, I'm not exactly 100% sure. I didn't dive deep into the domestic violence allegations against Bridges. So, Foxy, are you a little bit more privy as to what went down?
No, I'm not. I just know from our society that they would be a lot more acceptable of getting a Latrell Sprewell who's trying to hit a coach in the head with a 2x4 than they are with somebody that does something, domestic violence issues. And I guess rightly so, but we talked about Randle. Everybody deserves a second chance. We don't know the particulars of what happened and stuff like that. But he'd be a nice 3 on this team.
Yeah, he'd be a solid addition. He fits what we need as a squad. It just, the Knicks would have to do their due diligence to try to find more information as to what went down. And I think maybe the fact that he hasn't been signed by other teams, maybe that shows that teams did do their due diligence, did their background checks, and maybe they really didn't like what they found out, which could lead to him still not having a job at this moment. But if what he ended up doing was something that he could apologize for and to be accepted for him to come back into the league, then I'd be open to it. He can fit.
With you.
What else we got going on in chat? Jay says IQ is great, but word is he doesn't want to come off the bench. Yeah, we have been hearing some of those inklings that he doesn't view himself as a bench player, long term. He would be open to, getting an opportunity to start somewhere.
Who?
IQ.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. How if Quick hits free agency, right, and says he doesn't want to come back unless he's given an opportunity to start, what would you do as a GM and coach? Would you appease
Depends
him?
on the monies.
Money not a factor. If he just says he wants to come back, but it has to be guaranteed to start and roll, do you think the Knicks, as currently constituted, have a spot to elevate him into that starting lineup? Would you be okay with elevating him and bringing a guy like Quentin Grimes and having him come off the bench?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. You're not giving up defense at all. With IQ at the 2 there, he does have good playmaking. He has good playmaking skills. His shooting and stuff like that has gotten better. Yeah, I have no problem with that. The next area of development next year that we want to see from IQ is that we've seen him in games, his shooting, keep us in games or get us back in games. Next year, from a development standpoint, I want him hitting shots that win games. Or that's the dagger that puts a game out of reach. That's what I'm looking for, IQ. But he brought in a little midi this year that I liked, less on the floaters. Like you said earlier, Keith, he getting to the hole, using his left hand. He's showing he's had a couple of hiccups in the last few games of picking his dribble up, though. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't care about the turnovers. That happens. You go through things, but you shouldn't be picking up your dribble after this amount of time. So, he's a valuable player, but I'm not going to overpay for a guy that, I just don't see, when you're talking SGA, I don't see him ever being that league of a player. I think he's an incredibly valuable player that is absolutely championship teams want a player that you never have an issue with his motor, and stuff like that. So he's a quality guy on a team and you're going to pay for it, but not overpay for him though.
I hear you on that one, Foxy. Uh, Me personally, I'd be open to elevating him into the starting lineup as
Me
well.
too.
You got Grimes. Maybe Grimes can, run the offense to him a little bit. You've seen some confidence with him starting to, rely on his dribble a little bit more and not want to, pass the ball as soon as he gets it. So you see a little bit more confidence with a guy like Grimes. So moving him down to the second unit, maybe he can be that engine with that unit. We know he's played point guard, so we know he can, initiate the offense a little bit. He can knock down the three. He can defend, so you're not losing any of that if you make a swap between Quick and QG. And
Get more shots up on the second team.
yep, he can get more shots up. And also, if by then, maybe Rokas is here, Rokas can be on that second unit with him, and I'm sure him and Grimes could develop a nice little chemistry together. So I'd be open to it.
Me too.
Sherman says
Hit me up
IQ is
says the Knicks need scoring power goer after Kyrie. Yeah, you
Hell
saw
no.
the positive impact he's had on Dallas.
Kyrie is screwing us over right now with the way the Dallas Mavericks are stumbling. It's messing up our opportunity of getting their pick.
Don't bring that up. It's gnawing at me. I'm like saying, you know what? Come on. We're overdue for some luck. Let us get the 11th pick, then go into the lottery and it drops down to 9 or 8. Let us get a player. And like I said, folks, there's some quality players. They're projects. It may take 2 or 3 years. You heard me talk about Taylor Hendricks. I like him so much. He's raw. He's a project. He's 2 to 3 years away from really, being a player that you can rely on. And that's why if we were able to get him, I wouldn't mind if Randle wasn't being crazy. That is a guy that for a couple of years, he plays behind Randle, gets his footing. And then at 21 or 22, he's ready to take the helm from Randle when his contract's about to come up. But come on, we're due for some luck. If they finish 10 or less, it's gonna break my freaking heart.
Yep. Right now they're currently sitting at the 10th spot. Let's put that slide up on screen. Right now the Mavs are currently tied for the 10th spot. Well, actually,
Multiple teams.
now they're in sole position. They're a half a game. When we did this, they were 10th, tied for 10th. But now they're a half game behind Utah for 9, and they're a half game ahead of Oklahoma City, Toronto, and Chicago to be jumbled up for the possible 11th through 13th picks. So they're in sole position for 10th at the moment. They've lost their last 4. Luka just got his 16th technical, so
He's
he'll
out the
be
next
out
game.
for the game against Indiana. And if the Mavericks continue to lose, you look at it, like I mentioned, they're only a half game behind Utah to move up into that 9th spot. If they end up in the 9th spot and the lottery balls, work in their favor and against us, top 10 pick, we will then have no first round pick in this upcoming draft, seeing that we traded ours to bring in Josh Hart, which is a solid move. Josh Hart has definitely shown his value here on this team, but it would be unfortunate if we go into this draft, even though I know you mentioned it's not necessarily a draft where you'll find a star, but we still need to bring in some young players in to continue to build this roster long term and bring in some talented young players, which this draft does have. So hopefully the Dallas Mavericks can find a way to, fall within 11 through 14, and at least that'll allow us to get their pick. But if not, if they continue to slump, we might find ourselves without a pick this draft, which would be extremely unfortunate, especially
We'll have
for
their
me.
pick next year, which is also top 10 protected.
So you would think they would not get top 10, picks in consecutive drafts, especially with a guy like Luka on there.
Yeah, we're cursed.
Yeah, definitely a bit of bad luck for the New York Knicks, but hopefully, the season's not over. Maybe they'll be able to figure this out. And if they were to stay where they are right now, they would have a close to 15% chance of jumping all the way up to the top 4. So even if they fall at 10, it looks like they'd have a better chance of moving up than they would have fallen back. So that'd be extremely unfortunate. Hopefully, like I said, they'll figure this out and get some wins, and that way we can have a pick that's somewhere in between 11 and 14 in this upcoming draft.
And like I said, I don't think we keep it. We have a lot of young players and stuff like that. Tibbs is not the right coach to take in a player that needs development. There's only a couple players that he'd feel comfortable because from day one they'd be great on defense.
Hmm.
But but it would be something what we were talking about. Get a player like a Trey Murphy. Get that we would be able to trade a number 11 pick has a lot more cachet and power. With an Obi and a number 11 pick and maybe a couple other draft choices that are protected. That we can get a proven player in this league because with Tibbs, we need it would make more sense with Tibbs and also what we've talked about. We only got 2 more years with Brunson. Then he has a player option. If you look at the timelines, we got to get a proven player now. We don't have time to get a young player, to learn the game. By the time they learn the game, Brunson may be saying so long.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Brunson coming here and leaving if as long as we pay him what he wants. So I'm not too concerned about Brunson getting out of here.
I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about him getting beat up where he's not the same player because from a physicality standpoint, the bumps have taken a toll on him. And we've seen that with a lot of small point guards.
Yeah, smaller point guards do have a shorter shelf life. Also, we're seeing from Jesco, he says, I don't want to jinx it, but the Magic beating the Nets right now. And, hopefully that continues to happen for the remaining portion of the game because you can see we're in contention with both the Nets and the Cleveland. Well, not the Cleveland, but we're in contention with the Nets and the Heat. You can see for their remaining schedule. Right now, the Cavs pretty much, for the most part, we really don't have a shot of catching them. But we do have the Nets and the Heat behind us that could potentially, overlap us or usurp us as the 5th seed. So with the Nets losing to the Jazz right now, that definitely bodes well. If I'm not mistaken, I think right now we have a game lead over them, and we have a 2-game lead over the Heat. Foxy, you think we'll be able to hold on to this 5th seed?
All depends on if Brunson could come back. Even with Randle's antics, I think it's the person who stabilizes this team is Brunson. So if he could come back and stay healthy until we're finished with our run this year, I think that's the most important. That's the key factor.
Yeah, so right now we're a game and a half above the Nets, and we're 2 games above the Heat for that race for the 5th seed. So hopefully, we'll be able to hold them off. The Nets won their game against the Heat, and now hopefully they'll lose against the Magic, who ended up beating us yesterday. Not yesterday, but a few days ago. Of course, the ice cream truck wants to pull up towards the end of the stream. You can hear it? Me personally, I think it's still too cold for ice cream, but hey, he got to make his money, right?
It was for some reason I heard Mr. Softy, and the first thing that pops in my head was Obi Toppin.
Oh, here you go, Foxy. Leave Obi alone.
Whoa!
Leave Obi alone. You can't devalue our guy Obi because if not, teams won't want to trade for him.
I don't need to devalue him. He just has to go on the court.
Oh.
Yo!
Foxy got the gloves off for this stream.
Yo.
All right, so let's look at the stats for the Knicks from 12-4 to 326. You can see Jaylen Brunson still been phenomenal, 25.3. Of course, he missed the last game, dealing with injury, shooting 44.7% from the three-point line still. Quentin Grimes shooting 38% from three, 79.5% from the free throw line. RJ Barrett, he's over 20 points per game in that stretch of games, but still the three-point shot, still having issues knocking that down. Julius Randle, 27.3 points per game, 10.8 rebounds per game. The three-point shot has been decent in that stretch, not as high as we saw 2 years ago, but still at a respectable clip at 34.7%. Mitchell Robinson, 7.4 points per game, 9.8 rebounds per game, so just about 10 rebounds if you round up. And he's shooting, 68.4% from the field and 52% from the free throw line.
Yeah, so it's been pretty consistent. Like we said, we're hoping that RJ gets into his groove the last few games going into the playoffs, get the three-point shooting and that foul shooting up to at least league average.
Yep. And let's see what the bench is doing. Bench mob in that stretch of games. You had Quick, who's averaging 15.4 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3.3 assists per game, while shooting 45% from the field and 36.7% from the 3-point line. You see Josh Hart got nothing but greens, averaging 10.9 points per game, 6.7 rebounds per game, 3.8 rebounds assists per game, and shooting 59.5% from the field, 54.8% from the 3-point line, and 80% from the charity stripe. Your favorite Nick, Foxy, Obi, is averaging 4.9 points per game while shooting 40% from the field and 28.7% from the 3-point line. And then we got our guy iHeart, who's definitely been playing better as of late, averaging 4.2 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, while shooting 50.8% from the field.
Josh Hart's been consistent. IQ's having an excellent year. Like we said, we're happy with his development. Obi doesn't get the burn, so I feel for him, and it's hard to get rhythm, but it's hard to get minutes if you keep missing defensive assignments. And Isaiah Hartenstein, he's a really good backup center.
Yeah, let's see how the team has been doing. So the team rankings, we've been 13th in points, second in rebounds, so that's good. 30th still in assists. Team's not moving the ball as much as we would like. Field goal percentage, we're 19th in the league. 3-point percentage, we're at 15th in the league. And then the free throw shooting, we're at 24th. And then if you get into the advanced stats, offensive rating, we're second. Defensive rating, 17th. Net rating, 5th. Offensive effective field goal percentage, we're at 16th. And then defensive effective field goal percentage, we're still 5th, which is one of the biggest issues for the squad so far. It's been our defense in the last 3 games. We have been terrible. We were allowing teams to get into the paint at will. We're allowing them to get open shots from the 3-point line. So if the Knicks are going to want to turn this around and try to get better for these last 7 games, or 7 or so games, defense is going to be the number one thing that we have to turn around. We have to get better at the point of attack, and we have to do much better closing out at the 3-point line.
Yeah, I'm really, really shocked. What's happened over the last few games. Hey, I know you go through, spurts during the season where the shot's not dropping, but the defense remains constant. So, damn, the threes are not going in, but we're still so out of nowhere. We were playing great defense. The perimeter defense picked up, and bam, everyone's killing us. And now there's open threes every game. You're like, wow, that was open 3. Who missed that defensive assignment? Open, 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 open. So to go from 12th last week to 17th, yeah, that's a really bad week. But defensive rating is everything, man. So we dropped from 3rd to 5th on the defensive effective field goal. So I'm hoping that that's supposed to be Tibbs' thing, man. That he does the necessary tweaks, the players get it together, and we finish this season out strong on the defensive side.
Yep, and we say this the key metric for the Knicks so far. We're 30-3 when holding opponents under 110 points, and we're 12-30 when opponents score over 111 points. And you look at the 3 games we lost. Minnesota scored 140, Miami 127, Orlando 111. So if we go, play Houston and they're up over 110 points, you would assume that the Knicks would probably lose that game. So we need to lock up. We need to lock those young guys down. They're definitely still not in a position where they can pull out close games. I think we'll be able to take a lot of their confidence if we lock up and shut them down throughout that game.
Exactly. And, as we always say is whether it's Jaylen, just don't let a nobody kill us. Just don't let a nobody have the career game that you're like, we don't want Torian Prince games.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? So, yeah, but hey, it's a huge sample now, folks. So it's a great metric for us. Over 111, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yep. All right, Foxy. So this is the part of the show where you break down one of the prospects in the upcoming draft. You want to jump into it?
Yeah. First, I see a comment from JJ saying, buy a second-round pick and draft Tracy Jackson Davis out of Indiana. I'm surprised at you, JJ. he hasn't attempted one 3-pointer. He's 6'9", hasn't attempted a 3-pointer all season, only attempted 3-pointers all of last season. So you want to get a guy on here that doesn't shoot 3-pointers, that's 6'9", that he has a great college game. He passes really well. He's a good shot blocker. He has a 7'2" wingspan. He has over almost 3 blocks a game. But nah, man, he's a guy that is a lot better in college than he is. Then he'll be a role player in the pros. But if you don't, I can't understand how a guy like him didn't practice for the last few years, especially with Woody there, that somebody took him under his wing and said, son, you want to make the NBA, especially as a 4, you have to shoot threes. You just have to shoot threes. And but that didn't happen. So, folks, this week I'll be talking, this is before we heard the bad news of what's happening with the Mavericks. But when we were in the 12th, 11th spot, I'm going to be talking about Grady Dick. He is 6'8", 7 foot, reported 7 foot wingspan, 19 years old, out of Kansas. Absolutely, without question, the best shooter in this draft. And hopefully we can get rid of Fournier next year, but we need to stock up. A couple of years when we went to the playoffs, we had 4 guys shooting over 40%. We only have 1 guy on this team now, Brunson, that shoots over 40%. We need a sharpshooter. So, he shot over 40% from 3 this year, 46% on pull-ups, 85%, as you can see, from the foul line. Some of the best shooting mechanics I've seen in a long time. Beautiful high release point, frightening fast release. 6'8", like I said, with the 7, had 1.4 steals. So great without moving the ball, with, high IQ, getting into passing lanes. He's not much of a shot creator at this time, catch and shoot. And if you watch the game against Texas, they took him off his game, just driving him off the 3-point line and face guarding him. So, but he's a great, great shooter. And he also, he's a better athlete than people give him credit for. And he's displayed that, getting to the rim and had a lot of monster dunks this year. But, so if we were, he'll, if we don't get that pick, it's a moot point. But, if we were looking for a shooter, the guy can shoot, man. Beautiful stroke.
You have any concerns of him getting a shot off in the NBA with the bigger and longer defenders?
Yeah, I do. But that's why when you have guys like Brunson, it's all about complementary teams. If you could have somebody break down defenses and kick out for open, a catch and shoot, or I know this is a weird thing for Tibbs, but actually run screens and curls for certain shooters. He's a knockdown shooter, and we don't have a knockdown shooter on this team.
Okay, and then I guess the question everybody wants to know is, does Dick actually play defense?
He plays better. Like I said, he has 1.4 steals. Like I said, he's 7 foot wingspan, so he's disruptive. But at point of attack, he'll get lit up by the speed of of the guys in the NBA. So with the good comes the bad. We see a lot of 3-point guys. The Duncan Robinsons. Fournier at his peak and other things. They could light it up one way and they got lit up the other way. I just like giving every week a different flavor, folks, of the different players that will be available. But even if he's not at a Gordon Hayward level, I definitely see a Kevin Huerter level.
Okay.
And you've seen how successful he is, especially he's having a nice season with Sacramento. So I think with the right team, and he's a pup, man. He's only 19. He'll get stronger, smarter. Like I said, high basketball IQ. It's funny, certain players, I'm old, so guys like Bill Bradley. I love players that run nonstop and they just know how to get to, get the open shooting lanes and stuff like that. So I think he'll have a pretty good career.
So you think he'll be a kid that Tom Thibodeau would actually play if he drafted him? Because you said he might go, 11 through 12?
Yeah, I don't think Tibbs maybe if he gets enamored with his 3-point shooting, but I think he'll turn on him real quick the first time he makes a defensive mistake. So I think there's others, last week, folks, we talked about Derek Lively, that 7'7", 7'8" wingspan, almost, 3 blocks a game. We've seen this year Walker Kessler, Duran, Mark Williams, rookies walking in on drop defense, that they've been successful. So guys like that, I talked about Rand Rupert out of the France, but also the New Zealand Breakers, that he is a demon. He has 7'3" wingspan, that he's there's a kid out of Arkansas that's really raw, and I hope to God he goes back to school. But Jordan Walsh, 7'3" wingspan, 6'8", unbelievably athletic, but he'll be a nuisance on defense from day one. That's why I wanted Tari Eason. I knew he was raw, but Tibbs would said, this kid's a crazy man on defense. He's a lockdown defender, block shots, steals. I love that energy on him. So there's only a couple players that Tibbs will give burn to, and it all starts on the defensive end. And it doesn't start on the defensive end with Grady Dick, unfortunately.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you for that, Foxy. So we'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for tuning in. We didn't get to the 100 likes, but hopefully with the replay gang, you guys will get us there. If you haven't liked already, now would be a great time to do so. We're at 65. Let's see if you guys can get us to as close as 100 as we wrap it up. Foxy, you anything you would like to say before we get off?
Yeah, like you said, folks, please hit that like, please hit that subscribe. Just wanted to plant the seed. Hopefully the Knicks go well. We love our Knicks. If I'm over emotional, it's only, like I said, I'm invested in this team. A lot of time, a lot of love. And when they don't, like I said, I don't mind if we get beat by a great team, but when we do see certain things, it really is, it's depressing, man. I want them to do better, but I will say this. I just finished my 80 player profile for the upcoming draft. So I cannot wait. The only thing is the last couple of players that I'll finish up. I'll watch the Miami game when I get off today. I'm recording it. Isaiah Wong has probably the best handles in the draft out of Miami, microwave scorer off the bench. And then I'll just tweak it when the combine comes around. But got over 80 player profiles all written and done. So we're ready to rock and roll on draft shows coming up, folks. Hello? Hello?
Oh, my fault. I was muted. Yep, we definitely will let you guys know when we'll have some draft specific shows. Once we get past the playoffs and things like that, we'll do some specials throughout the week just to get into some of the guys. I know Foxy has spent a lot of time making those profiles, those draft profiles for some of these young guys entering the draft. So we'll let you guys know when we'll have those scheduled. We'll be back again next Sunday. I believe there's a game, so we'll guys let you know what time it'll be, seeing that that normally throws off the usual flow of things. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Once again, I'm Keith, host of Sports Vibes TV, joined as always by my co-host Stephen Fox. And until next time.